This is the culture.
All right, hello, welcome back to the Cinema Wave podcast. I'm one of your hosts today, Mark Jacobino. I'm joined by my animation crew members, Mikey Pennison.
Hey, everybody. Hey.
And Vinny Albano.
Hello.
We did a little switch around on the seats, but I like this. I like the new perspective here. Today we are going to be talking about Solo Leveling Episode 5. Pretty good deal. For me, this episode was a bit of a setup. I wasn't a big fan of where they kind of went with this episode. I appreciated the world building. I think that was all good, but it did feel like there were some moments where they kind of stretched out the time to just get to the ending, and just felt like this episode wasn't very consequential. It really does feel like by the end of it, it was just to set up this big boss battle for next week, which I'm sure will be great. Mm-hmm. But that's at least where I stood on this episode. How about you, Mikey? What'd you think?
I actually felt the exact same way.
Okay.
I felt like not that it was a bad. Honestly, I don't see this show having like a bad episode. Mm-hmm. I feel like it was, again, there's subpar sort of episodes, and then there's gonna be like really like the boss episode, mm-hmm. battle episode next week. And so I felt like with this one, also it was, I agree, it was like a setup, mm-hmm. But also more of like a show off too. Like I feel like this one we really got to see like a little bit more evolution to Son, and so I feel like I don't know, I feel like I don't even have too much to say about the episode, to be honest, but I do like the setup of it a lot.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's tough because I feel like this episode was, like you mentioned, mostly set up, so it's really hard to judge and like critique based on that. Mm-hmm. For a setup, you know, it is intriguing. You know, we're finally getting on like the moral ambiguity of the other, like, you know, how hunters aren't always good guys. Mm-hmm. You know, they can betray. They're just like people, and like people, there's a lot of bad people in the world that will use you and betray you for their own benefit. So I do like that fact that they're now diving into that. You know, the world of hunters is a lot more than all good and sunshine and rainbows. For like a production side of things, like nothing really stood out, but you know, like I said, it's almost hard to judge because of the setup. I will say, however, the standout of this episode, we are finally getting Sung Drip Woo.
We got a little ab shot. Right. We got nurses going crazy for my boy.
The one nurse could barely speak. Like she was like, "Oh, I can tell you're handsome.
Please, contact information." Yeah.
Yes, but
no, exactly. Yeah, he's the guy now.
Yeah,
he's him.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's basically my thoughts for that overall. I honestly, speaking on more of the positive notes, I will say that opening was so funny to me because like 1 episode ago or 2 episodes ago, we had like Sung Jin Woo, who was nothing, and he was just like looked at as like pathetic, and now he's like, you know, he's out here slaying. So
yeah. I think this episode did a really good job of world building, and I think that was the point of it. You know, like you said, we have the visual into different hunters, and there's crooks in the hunter world, and they take advantage of the systems. There's no kind of police for inside the dungeon, so you can do this thing where you bring in people and use them as bait to essentially get all the loot while they're pretty much getting killed by the boss. So that's a cool world building aspect. We see more of Sung Jin Woo adding different skill points now, not just speed, but he adds agility and perception. And then the perception pays off in the dungeon when he's like, something else is wrong in here. And we do get introduced to Yoo, I believe his name is, the very green hunter who has all the armor. That shows that part of the world where, you know, you can kind of make up for your shortcomings if you have enough money. You can get all this high level gear. You can pay your way up. And, you know, we see Sung Jin Woo sees that in him, and he's like, oh, wow, he he has a lot of gear on, like he must be pretty well connected. So there is a lot of good world building that happens in this episode. And I do want to give it credit for that. I just feel, there's ways to do good world building while also telling a good story. So I think, it kind of missed the mark there. And then we also, again, they've been doing these weird kind of cutaways to almost things that aren't related to the direct moment. Like we cut away to that Tiger S rank guy. He's doing like a TV interview at one point, and then we see him training. And they just kind of feel like thrown in the middle of them going through the dungeon. They're just like, we're in a dungeon, and then we cut out to him training, and then we cut back. And it just feels like they were doing that maybe to add time. Again, it could kind of be a world building thing where it's like, look how S-rank hunters train and are treated. But those were my main gripes with it. But I did have the positives of the world building. I don't know what else. What other do you kind of agree there? Someone that didn't know the story coming in.
Yeah, honestly, everything and in this episode just kind of fit a strict setup. So I feel like everything down to including like those little transitional weird moment, like cutaway moments. I feel like again also oddly enough act as like a setup sort of thing. But like coming off of somebody that like is new to the story, new to everything with this. I don't know. I feel like this is one kind of expected, I guess I could say. Like, I know that especially in anime, like there is just like a lot of filler episodes, sort of thing. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, not that I would even consider this like a filler episode. Like, it's just like there's a lot to have to set up, and so not knowing the story. And knowing that there probably could still be a lot to come, and especially with Jin Woo's story, then I don't know. I feel like everything in this served as just like okay, we're building something huge that could happen, like even bigger than we're anticipating. I did appreciate moments though in this episode, like seeing the the perception helped a lot, but I feel like Jin Woo had a lot of that already in him. I feel like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll probably get more into that. I don't know how deep we're getting into this episode, but I appreciated in this episode seeing, like, even in the dungeon, knowing that like, okay, he's also backed with now experience and like things like that, and like it isn't just fully like a lot of strength with him. Like you could tell that like, okay, he's also growing into a wise sort of hunter. And so I appreciate those moments, but again, it was all the build up.
I feel like you mentioned, I forget his name, the introduction of the new side character.
Oh, Yoo, I think his name is. Y-O-O. So I think it's Yoo.
I'm curious what his like impact on the story is going to be. I'm curious if he's just going to be like a throwaway character. Jin Woo, he helps him out for this episode, he helps him out for next episode, and we forget about him. Or if he will be significant to like, Jin Woo's story. Because so far we have no like supporting characters to Jin Woo besides the one B rank healer who served almost what felt like almost like foreshadowing to a love interest, and then also his sister. So having maybe him be a new supporting character would be really interesting. It also is a big. They contrast each other because he's someone who's new to the Hunter Association, doesn't know anything, but he's kind of very privileged. However, Jin Woo, he is the opposite of privileged, yet he has been in the Hunters Association and knows so much more. So I think their dynamic could be really interesting to expand upon. In terms of setup and story and pacing and quote unquote like filler, even though like Mikey said, I wouldn't really consider anything here filler, but Mark, I wanted to ask you because you read the manhwa. So how different is the manhwa in this part of the story compared to here?
Yeah, I think overall they've been pretty like on point with it. I would say it's pretty 1-to-1 so far. I think the main thing that they're adding are those scenes with like the tiger hunter S rank where they cut away to him I don't specifically remember there being a lot of like added content here to fill it out, but I think where the Mawa maybe excelled was, in those moments where they're fighting the ants, where they kind of used a lot of still images and kind of didn't really zoom in on any of the action, or there wasn't really big character moments where they do these big cool attacks. In the Mawa, they're really able to flesh that out through a lot of different panels of really cool art like this. So right now it's definitely 1-to-1. I'm just curious if they have an endpoint that they're thinking of for this first season, which is 12 episodes, and I think they are trying to hit that endpoint. And because of that, some episodes like this have to happen where they have to stretch out time. This boss battle next week with the spider might be, maybe 15-20 minutes, might be the whole episode. They might make it only 10 minutes. There might be a budgeting thing. We don't really know, but so far they definitely haven't been adding like a lot of like content like that. They're just recutting in those little sneak peeks into the S rank and the higher echelon of hunter world.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting thus far.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like I said at the beginning, it's almost hard to critique or like really comment upon because it is set up. However, I think I already said this, but I'm excited to see the spider boss battle. Also Jin Woo with the snake fang blade. So now I'm really excited to see how that works. The poison attribute to it as well. So, I'm just I guess the big benefit of this episode being a setup is just like I've been repeating, it's getting my excitement up for next week. Next week.
There was one thing that I did want to ask you guys though that I just remembered. And just it kind of goes more so because of a previous conversation that we've had from a previous episode. Again, it seems like with just the show, and maybe again it could just be like an anime genre sort of thing, but it seems like morals are like a very big theme here. And so we kind of still play into that in this episode with the hunter's betrayal thing. And I don't know, I just feel like it's we're seeing it so much that it's so prevalent in this show that it's like I always go back to that theme of like, oh, okay, like I don't want to use like a Spider-Man sort of thing, but this great power sort of thing, you know what I'm saying? And so to see these hunters in like a sort of betrayal act again, is it just like how do you guys kind of take that? How do you guys interpret that? Just now knowing these past episodes have included a lot of like what will you do under like this test, or what will you do under like something like that.
I mean, I feel that it's building a very like nice thematic foundation for the show, but I'm also excited to see, or curious to see, if they ever expand upon the morality of like the higher figures in this world, because we talked about selfishness and selflessness, and in the first episode we had the chairman, and then we had like those people, basically the men in suits that came and checked Jin Woo out. So I'm curious if those people will come back into the play, and then we'll see if that same thematic like lining is prevalent in their characters as well, because for them to introduce the show in the first episode with those characters and the chairman and stuff, I've been thinking about that for a while now. I'm like, okay, what if, like, are we gonna get the breadcrumbs? Are we gonna go back? Even this S rank hunter too, that we've been kind of like cutting back to, the tiger guy. I'm curious if he's not, on TV he seems like a great guy, and he's very disciplined and whatnot. However, what if he's not? Like you mentioned, like, there's this theme of morality, and a lot of these people are not all sunshine and rainbows. So what if he's not good? So maybe just some theory crafting. So
Yeah, I mean, no comment because I've read the
That's
manhwa,
right.
so,
That's right.
but I agree. I do like that. You know, the selfishness versus selflessness is very forward in this. I think when I was reading the manhwa, I was just kind of enjoying the story. I mean, I was getting attached to some of the characters, and the theme wasn't like buried, but I think the anime has done a good job of making it at the forefront. So yeah, I think it's really cool that again this episode built on that. Did you guys feel like suspicious of this group when they first showed up and they're like, "Oh yeah, we just need to come on in, guys. We'll pay you $2 million." Were you guys suspicious, or was it kind of like a wire that was like slowly getting tightened throughout their time in the dungeon?
I was pretty suspicious from the jump. I don't know about you guys. It was like something about the demeanor of it all was like very should we trust this? But then also like Jin Woo just kind of having that like cool sort of like element of like being aware, almost like too aware of like, oh okay, like they might be doing this, but I'll still tag along. That kind of also benefited the me viewing it as a bad thing early on. But they were just kind of weird vibed up.
They were just way too nice.
Yeah, way too nice.
Yeah, I agree. I feel that there was something that gave it away. Oh, it was when he was signing the paper and he said something about, oh, there's no liability for what happens in the dungeon. So I was like, yeah, they're fucking him over.
Yeah. That's the other thing that brings up another point, and I talked about this in my background the first episode, and I'm still very scared. They didn't give a unit of currency. They said 2.5 million, and they didn't say a currency, and that makes me extremely scared that this story is still not set in South Korea, because they would have said the currency, but they still haven't. So I'm like, is A1 Pictures just hiding this at this point, and they're gonna just drop the bomb like towards the end of the season, and I'm just gonna be like, you goddamn bastards, you changed the story, and then that just puts a nail, for me at least, in where this story could go, because it'll just be a completely different story on the geopolitical scale. But that, I'm glad you brought that up, because I just remembered it, and because it pissed me off when I was watching. I was like, what? 2.5 million what? and the other thing I thought about was like in JJK, when like you watch the episode right away, Crunchyroll is just like the worst streaming service on earth. They have terrible subtitles sometimes. They just mess up the subtitles. So at first I was like, maybe they just messed up the subtitles. But now I'm thinking, no, I think they're just hiding it.
So
I don't know.
That's a good point.
It makes me very scared.
Yeah. Do you think that they would just like throw it in there at the very end like that?
What part?
Like the geological like portion.
They would just have to change the story, like because of the setting, because the South Korea is like very important to the setting. So I don't know. It's just that's why I'm like very nervous of it, because they do it. It's like it's a bombshell for the story.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it was very telling that they didn't put a unit on the currency.
Very. I didn't even think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not familiar with the manga. I never read it, so I don't know how like the geopolitical aspect plays into the story. But I mean, we were given hints at the beginning with like it opens up with a military battleship on an island. So that felt very like political-esque. Even going back to how I mentioned the chairman as well, like guys in suits. So. Yeah.
I don't want to give anything away. Like my goal isn't to like give it away, but like that's just like very important. And maybe like the funny thing is maybe they'll like stick the landing for people that had never read the manhwa, and the story they tell here is still like really compelling.
Yeah.
But it just betrays like the fans of the manhwa, which I think is even worse, because like they were there from the beginning. So we'll see, but that's just some food for thought for you guys. That I'm a little scared.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there was a lot of stuff to talk about. I feel like we nailed a lot of the things so far. Very excited for the boss battle next week with the spider. It's a C rank boss, and I know he says he's an E rank, but obviously we know he's been leveling up.
Yeah.
But I do like that he steps in front of Yoo here and says like, I got this. Like, don't worry, like I'll take care of this. I feel like in previous episodes he's stepped up in front of people, but he was so weak that like it was pretty much a sacrifice. But here he's like, no, I'm gonna take this thing down for us. So I thought that was a good little evolution moment for him.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really have much else to say. I'm excited. Like I mentioned, I sound like a broken record, but yeah, I'm excited, and hopefully, this episode was very like slideshow animation. Hopefully, next episode snaps.
Yes.
I'm expecting it to go crazy. Especially like now he's gonna eat. He's sung drip Woo now.
Yes. Yep.
So even the snake fight from episode 4 was awesome. So I'm expecting this to be on the same level or even top it.
Right.
So yeah.
Likewise, I am not much left to say. I'm super excited for sure. Not even just for the fight, but just to see like this episode for sure. Like you said, showed us that like he's drippy, and he's only getting drippier, and so I don't know. I'm really excited to see what's to come. There was actually I was gonna. It'll come back to me, guys. It will come back to me.
All right. I'll go, and then you got this. I think maybe they're saving budget, so maybe next week they go crazy. I think another good thing is that this battle now, he's leveled up. So last battle he was just surviving, but now since he's leveled up, it'll be like an actual fight. Like last one he was just like getting tossed around. This one I think will be a little bit more like back and forth, which I think will be really fun. And we'll give A1 Pictures like a lot of creativity to show what they can do, because I know they have the skill to do really amazing action sequences in their previous anime. So even though this week maybe didn't hit the mark fully, I do have confidence that they did it for a reason, and they'll make us like eat our words this week by saying this, and then next week just like blows it out of the water. So we'll see. Mikey, did it come to you?
It did come to me. Great. Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Earlier you had said about you, like it would be cool if like we saw him come back again or something like that, but just kind of leaning more into that, like it would be cool, and this is like my last thought about it all, it would be cool to see, just because we've seen betrayal and like this sort of like corruptness throughout it, like a character that has already been in it, that like, not that there is one that comes to mind immediately, but it would be cool to see something like that where like, oh, what if we see a character come back and in a way where it's like, oh, kind of hurting Jin Woo, what I'm saying? Like he has to go against that. So that would be really interesting to see. I don't know if it makes sense with like where we're at right now and with a lot of the characters we have introduced, but it would be cool to see like that theme of the morality of it all, even though it's probably not that big of a thing. It would be cool to see like a character kind of come back and then have to play a big role in Jin Woo's story. So, I just thought about that because you had said it earlier, and I was like, oh wait, that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, for sure. All right.
I'm hoping for some Demon Slayer level like action next week, where they take first couple weeks it's like, okay, this is like solid, and then like the last 2 episodes they just go like absolutely insane. It's the coolest animation ever. So hoping that they do that next week. We're definitely recording next week, right? Yes. We are recording next week, so definitely expect that episode coming out next week. But if you don't follow us already, you can follow us on Instagram at Cinema Wave Media, and TikTok and Facebook and Threads as well. And you could also follow us at _Culture Wave Media on Instagram. That's the episode. Signing off, I'm Mark Jacobino.
I'm Mikey Peniston.
And I'm Vinny Albano.
And this is the Animation Crew. See you later, guys.